Hey guys, Museman here, back with another Identity V video. It's been a couple days since I posted a video, so I thought I'd show you all some of my Dreamwitch gameplay. Let's take a look. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at the first match here, which is on Red Church. I spawned what we call Top Broken. This is actually a pretty crummy spawn for most hunters. I just personally don't prefer this spawn. So I find the Magician, which is actually really great. I mean, yeah, the Magician is a kiting class character, however, it's also really nice to be able to find the Magician because he's literally the most difficult survivor to rescue. And if I do end up downing him pretty quickly, it's going to be pretty tough for these survivors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to patrol him, just so that it doesn't take forever. And he actually did a pallet stun there, so now I'm able to switch between followers. So if there's like a risky pallet stun on a leech, if you're going against a Dreamwitch, don't go for the pallet stun, because then they won't have to go through attack hit recovery in order to switch to another leech. You saw I was able to switch to my leech right away, and I was just sort of mind gaming around that pallet there. And now the Magician is on the chair, and it's gonna be tough for the survivors to pull off a rescue against a Magician with a Dreamwitch, because Dreamwitch's camping is actually really good. Of course, elbow pads. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that leech out of radius so that'll come out the Magician. I just decided to double hit the mercenary there since I didn't really know where the Magician was going to be. So the Magician ends up doubling back around, and I'm going to end up switching to another follower here. And at this point, he's used both of his wands, and now that's two survivors down. The Merc is down, and the Magician is down. So now it's going to be tough for them to try to heal up and rescue. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to keep pushing forward with this. Looks like the first round of Cypher Pops happen, and there's a survivor working over here. Oh wait, no, that's bot. That's bot. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and down the bot, but I can see that the Magician was rescued here. So I believe this is my spawn follower here, and the spawn follower is the one that you always want face camping. And the reason for that being, you want the spawn follower being the one camping so that you can actually hit the player that's being rescued. And I'm gonna actually leech the mercenary again. But now the Magician is dead on chair, so I've got my first elimination down. I've got a leech on the field. I've got a down mercenary with a leech on them, so I'll be able to figure out where they're at. And I can see that the mercenary is over here, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the Merc to the chair. Now, as far as like camping the Merc goes, you don't want to worry about that too much, because the mercenary is a rescuer, and if he gets rescued, he's just going to be able to elbow pad out of there, so I won't worry about it too much. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm waiting for a rescue to figure out where that rescue is going to be coming from. And I actually was late on figuring out where the Enchantress was at. But I end up getting a hit on the Enchantress. I'm going to get my leeches going over that way, and I'm going to try to sort of like corner them over here between the two leeches. Actually, no, what I'm doing is I'm chasing both survivors at once. You see what I'm doing? I'm just having them auto march, so that I'm able to chase both the survivors. And actually at this point now I'm just multitasking and trying to pull off traps and stuff. And that leech actually ended up going out of radius, so I'm trying to just have this leech patrol this Cypher. And I'm going to actually switch to Abnormal here. So I started off with Patroller because we had a Merc, we had a Magician, we had an Enchantress. Some of these survivors can be quite difficult to down. And when you've got like a bunch of kiters in the team comp, what you want to do is you want to run Patroller, but they're kind of more fragile characters like a Barmaid or a let's see, what are some other non-kiters? Like if they go like Cypher Rush team comp, you can get away with going blink than abnormal, even though it's more of like a late game setup. So, and actually lately I've been using blink more. And actually, I could have justified going after that Enchantress, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to get a hit on Mechanic so that if I down in Survivor, nobody's going to be able to rescue. So I'm just getting that leech out of radius there, so that's what I'm doing there. And I wait for the perfect moment, and I down the Enchantress there. So what's nice about spectating with the central leech is that the survivors won't know when you're going to go to a leech, so you can just sort of have your leeches patrolling the ciphers, and this is actually a common strategy once you start hitting 1 or 2 ciphers remaining, is that you'll be able to patrol if they're within a certain radius. It can be pretty easy to have full control over all 3 ciphers and make it near impossible for the survivors to win. So the Mechanic actually ended up is going for the rescue now. And I'm going to go ahead and just get a hit on the Mechanic because it doesn't really matter. Now at this point though, I've got Abnormal, which means my chase is going to be relatively weak. So that ended up hitting the Enchantress there, kind of unfortunately. But now they're going to be over there trying to heal up, but I'm able to follow up quickly with the leech, and that's actually the Mechanic's leech, so the Enchantress didn't get leech, but the Mercenary is here, and he's going to be going down soon. I'm just going to Abnormal that to Oblivion, so the Mechanic's going to be over trying to remove the leech. They end up pulling off that rescue, but they're going to a cipher that I'm patrolling. Or never mind, the Mercenary is just stalling out his passive ability. And I'm going to get back to having this leech patrol the cipher, because I know that the Enchantress is going to want to go here. And I'm just going to have it sit there. So now, I think this is my spawn. My spawn's going to be patrolling that cipher there, because I know that the spawn follower is not going to move, which is going to force them to go to a different cipher. So they're going to the rescue here. The Enchantress is over here. And now I end up actually switching to this follower because this follower doesn't have any stacks. Now the thing for Enchantress is that the Enchantress needs to gain stacks for every single character, for every single leech, in order to stun them. So if like the Enchantress has a 3 stack, you just attack with a different spawn follower. And I'm actually going to reach the Enchantress here because she's stalled out of time because she was injured. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking around, making sure I know what's going on, where the survivors are at, and the Enchantress is going to be over here trying to remove the follower, but I'm going to be coming up quickly with my spawn follower and disrupting this. So you can see I've got my spawn follower chasing right now, and now you can see I kind of set up a trap for this Enchantress here. She ends up escaping it though, which is kind of unfortunate, but you can see if you've got like, if you're really skilled with the leeches, you can set up some pretty good traps between leeches and spawn followers. So now she's going to make her way to God Palette here. She's kind of trapped here, so you can see again with the trap, there was nothing that she was going to be able to do. The Mechanic is still up, but being that this is ranked, I'm just going to go for the 3-man. If it's 5v5, obviously I could slug at this point. There's 1 cipher remaining, so I just have the leech follower camping, but the Mechanic is presumably going to get dungeon. I was checking to see if it was at top broken. I didn't think it was. And actually I'm going to have my leech go over this way because now I think I know where the dungeon's at, which is at Backgate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my leech camp Backgate. The dungeon you can see is right here, and my Tinnitus is going off, which means that the Mechanic is close. The only way Mechanic gets dungeon at this point is if she has a syringe. But we can see right now that she doesn't. And I'm just going to have this leech camp the dungeon. And there's really nothing that the survivor's going to be able to do. You can see that right there. And I think she ends up like leaving, trying to look for another way. But I end up leeching the mechanic so that I can both chase the mechanic, but if it comes down to it, I've got my spawn leech on dungeon. So I can just go ahead and switch to my spawn leech if need be. So you can't see it because this is a replay, but I'm able to see where the mechanic is at, and if she ends up getting too close, then I'm going to be able to easily just switch to my spawn follower. She actually had, why didn't she use her elbow pads earlier? I have no idea. But now I'm able to go ahead and down the mechanic, and that is a 4-man for game 1. So now the next match we're going to look at is on Arms Factory. Oh, I remember this match. This match was actually extremely back and forth. So I end up getting a really solid start, but then I ended up sort of losing progress, and they sort of start resetting the game, especially once the Cypher Pop comes, but then I go ahead and pull it back around. So this is just kind of showing that you can always rebound. So I end up not finding the Mind's Eye, which was actually, looking at the replay, the Mind's Eye was actually in the area, and I just narrowly missed her, which was kind of unfortunate because it would have been ideal to find the Mind's Eye first. But my spawn leech was able to get an easy hit on the coordinator. And I'm going to go ahead and leech the coordinator. I'm going to place the leech by factory because I don't want her to get to factory. I don't want that. Factory is the best area for a survivor to kite, so obviously you aren't going to want survivors going there. And I'm going to go ahead and use my patroller. There was a cowboy coordinator. So I guess I could have justified bringing Blink instead. And I actually don't want to hit with my spawn follower, because the coordinator's in a pretty easy area. So I end up downing with my spawn follower, so I'm able to keep that leech. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the coordinator to the chair, and we can see that the cowboy is sort of waiting for halfway here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to surprise him by leeching him. Switch to my spawn follower, get a hit from the cowboy, and I actually end up stuffing this rescue just by surprise. The cowboy had no idea what to do, and now the cowboy has a leech, the coordinator has a leech, and neither of them can do anything about it. You can see this is already a powerful start, but the survivors end up rebounding, and you'll see that in like a minute. The survivors would have rebounded at this point. So here I end up missing the Mind's Eye, and that kind of, that was not the Mind's Eye. And I end up downing the gardener here, and I'm gonna go ahead and have this leech come over here, and now at this point it's going to be really tough for the coordinator to pull a rescue off. So at this point, the only player that can go for a rescue was the Mind's Eye, and I end up getting a hit on the Mind's Eye. A rule with Dream Witch is to always try to keep as much damage on survivors as possible, and I knew that gardener was going to be close to self-healing, so what I do is I decide to just go ahead and put the gardener on the chair just for some progress. I'm going to be making my way over to this area, and these survivors are in 3-pop. Everybody's here. Oh my goodness, and everybody's injured, so I end up going after the cowboy though. And what I should have done here was I should have just thrown a leech down on cowboy, because I believe cowboy was dead on chair, but I wanted to also protect this down with the gardener here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leech gardener here, and I'm going to switch to my spawn follower, get my spawn follower going in that area so that they can't heal up easily. And at this point, there are 2 survivors that are dead on chair, so I'm gonna switch to the leech here, and the coordinator's right here. Now I thought it was close enough to the point where I actually get a terror shock, but I was wrong. And I'm gonna actually end up downing the coordinator here. Now, the cowboy ends up harassing here, and he didn't have to lasso. I just thought he was gonna try to lasso. And there's 3 ciphers left, so I'm like, okay, no pressure, no pressure. 2 survivors are dead on chair. And this cowboy's here. I should have just patrolled right now. But that leech ended up going out of radius, so that didn't really work. The coordinator's right here. And I'm just gonna try to make sure, I'm gonna have this leech come over here, and so I end up seeing where the cowboy's at. The cowboy's right over there. And what I actually should have done was I should have had this leech stand right in front of the coordinator, so she wouldn't have even been able to move, even if she did get up. And unfortunately, my patroller, whenever I click the button, it wouldn't latch on there. So, but I ended up seeing the coordinator here, and I get a leech right on the coordinator at the last second. And I start chasing the coordinator, but she's so far ahead right now that the leeches aren't able to catch up, which is really unfortunate. And there's 2 ciphers remaining, so this is where the comeback starts happening. I mean, we've got, what is that, 3 survivors dead on chair. There's 1 cipher remaining. And they do a really nice job shuffling through all these survivors. And this mind's eye's on the last cipher here, which is actually prime. But that was a leech, so the leech is going to start auto-marching, and the cowboy's actually going to pop that cipher, and I was so close to getting that down. But you can see all survivors are running now, so watch what I do here. I'm going to leech, place it right at the gate. I have 4 leeches on the field, so I can really dish out a lot of damage if I choose to. And I'm going to switch to blink here, just so that I can get that hit on the gardener. I'm going to check, make sure nobody's decoding here. And I see that the cowboy's over here, and I'm going to go ahead and blink again. 2 survivors down, boom. And I'm going to go ahead and take the gardener to the basement. So, gardener's going to basement, cowboy's here. And I believe one of the other survivors ends up trying to recover here. The coordinator's in this area, so I go ahead and somehow that blink missed, but I was able to follow up with a nice terror shot. And I'm going to go ahead and get my spawn follower to go after the cowboy. And I'm able to down the cowboy here. So now the coordinator and the cowboy are down, and that is a 3-man for me. Because I'm going to take the coordinator to the chair, coordinator's dead on chair, and now I can go ahead and take the cowboy. So, yeah, this is GG's. You can see how that was extremely back and forth. It almost looked like they recovered at the end, but being that I had so many leeches on the field, it was actually not that bad to recover. So, just because 4 survivors are running, by the time the last cipher pops, doesn't mean it's game over. I was able to pull that into a 3-man after the last cipher pop. So I actually end up finding the forward here. And I went ahead and got a nice quick hit on the forward. And I'm going to go ahead and chase the forward with my followers here. So we have a forward, perfumer, priestess, prospector. It's a good team comp to be running patroller on, especially because patroller is good against perfumer and forward, and that is actually not that bad against prospector. So I've got my leeches here, and I'm just going to go ahead and have my leech over at these areas just so that I can sort of pin the forward in here. But the forward ends up dashing away, so there was really nothing that I could do about that. And that's the thing with chasing a forward, is that if he's in a little pickle, he can just go ahead and dash out of there without repercussions or anything. And super portal actually forms here. I get it down on the forward here. Leech followers going back to the forward now. I end up leeching the perfumer just to get more leeches on the field. And the forward actually ends up getting back up. And what I want to do here is I want to get rid of that super portal. I don't want him to pull that trick again. And watch what I do here. So the forward's right over here. I'm chasing the forward here. And I end up getting another hit on the pieces there just to get more damage in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start chasing the priestess now, because it's not so much about getting the first down, it's about getting A down, and even if that means going after a different survivor, you just want to dish out damage where it's kind of given to you. And it can be kind of tough to down a forward at the beginning. Unless if you're like a Bloody Queen or something, you really shouldn't be chasing a forward first. And I actually end up... I killed the controller there, but I end up downing... I end up hitting the perfumer, so now her ability doesn't do much. And I'm gonna get my main follower over to the priestess so that I can go ahead and leech the priestess. And you can see pretty standard gameplay so far. I down the priestess, and I've got a leech on her so that I'm gonna be able to find where she's at. And actually the perfumer's over here. And I kind of had an idea that she was going to be heading back there. I end up downing the perfumer as well, and I've got 3 leeches on. They're not removing leeches at all, so it really gives me a lot of power when they decide that they don't want to gather and heal up and remove leeches and whatever. And I actually find the forward here, who's grabbing another item here. I end up downing the forward. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up the perfumer here. Now all that's left is the prospector. So watch how clean this is. Watch how clean this is. I've got... Oh wait, no. I'm thinking of a different part. I go ahead and just hit the prospector there to rush that rescue there. But I'm going to go ahead and switch to blink there. And that blink is actually pretty decent against prospector because you're able to ignore his stuns there. So I end up placing him down. That removes the priestess portal. And I'm making sure that they don't go for that rescue on the perfumer. And there's actually a world portal there. So, okay, I think this is when it happens. Actually, never mind. I'm thinking of a different part. I thought I was going to get a terror shock there. That was kind of unfortunate. But, you know, they end up getting rescues on both the survivors, which means that tide is going to be running out here. But they actually don't go that far away, so that's kind of nice. When you end up getting a rescue off a survivor, you want to go to like a way different area before starting to de-leech. And that's just because it'll be really easy for the hunter to predict where you're healing up and de-leeching if you don't really stray that far away from the last chair. So they should have made their way more into Big Boat. Also because that's an easier kiting area. And this forward is at sort of camping portal here. But I end up getting a leech on the forward. And now I've got 3 leeches on the field, 2 leeches and a spawn follower. I end up just hitting the forward just for the sake of dealing more damage. And I'm coming up with my spawn follower here, and I'm able to get a pretty easy down on the forward there. I'm going to go ahead and take the forward to the chair. Both survivors have chair progress, but you can see they're just healing up. And this forward's going to be going to the chair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up. I'm going to go ahead and come over with my main body, and I'm going to go ahead and leech the forward. And once again, the leech is the one that patrols, not the spawn follower. It actually took me a while to figure that out in the beginning. and I see that the prospector's here. Watch what happens here. I get a hit on the perfumer here, and then I follow up with a second hit on the Spiniflower. So that's just how powerful Greenwitch's Poison can be. You can see I single-handedly stuffed that perfumer's rescue, and I end up going ahead and reaching the perfumer there, and I'm going to take the perfumer to the chair. So now all that's left is the prospector. Who it looks like is going to be going for dungeon at this point. Oh wait, no. He ends up going through the super portal here. And I actually probably could have just ended up double hitting through the super portal there, but I end up getting a pretty easy hit on the prospector there, and then double hit the prospector. So yeah, that's the game. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that video. Please leave any comments or questions in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time.